So good evening, everybody. Thank you for our first clunk. We have just sorted it all out. The first time we've ever done a live stream. Hang on, I must turn that down because it's driving me nuts. Okay, so that's worked. Oh, another point. For some reason, we got captions. Woohoo! Okay, so tonight's topic. We are talking on presence or presents. Can you clarify that, Mel?
Presents. Well, we got the presents under the tree, or are we going to bless those that we love at Christmas with our actual presents?
I
What's
love that. Yeah, what presence means a lot for me. Like I just deep dive far into presence. I'm just wondering if you could just throw a little bit around and tell me what presence means to you.
Presence to me means actually being there wholly and solely with the people you're with at the time. And there's something that came up for me only at half an hour ago, a conversation with my mother around it's a time of year that Mum struggles with after losing her mother at just before Christmas. What that happens, I think that's 30 odd years ago now, and it's still something that dwells on her mind, and it takes away the fact that they're thinking about the past and who's not there, rather than spending the time with who is actually, and appreciating who's actually with you at the time.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there. Another thing that we add to Christmas is presents. Are we actually there, or are we just stressing out in a world of mayhem? I've noticed at Christmas time, nobody's really present. In my family culture, a lot of the times it's been quite distant, and then there is special times when it's all the stress is over, we come together and have a chat and we talk, and we have a laugh. And I remember the last Christmas, Mum was just starting to lose her mind because she's got dementia, and we were talking, and because we're talking about memories. She could talk with my uncle JB, and they were present. She was present because they were reminiscing. That's just one side of presence. Although they were in the past, it was lovely to see Mum present in the conversation and reminiscing and together in all the memories, and it was nice.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, though, I've seen in other situations where in different families where I've witnessed, there's people talking at each other. So they're almost, I'll describe tribal pattern. If I was to use the word enmeshment, it means that we all seem to play a role in a family. I hope you can help me expand this a little bit. We all seem to play a role in our family lives, and some of those we could name them, such as the scapegoat, the black sheep. Everybody knows about the black sheep, and they play that role as the black sheep. And then there's the smart one, the hero, so on and so forth. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you're saying that they're just run that by me again, that last little bit. I just want to make sure.
The roles we play, the enmeshment that we seem to play roles. We're not really present and curious to who the person. So we're not really curious to the person who they are now, or who they use. We kind of box them in on who we want them to be, and this happens in relationships and family, and all types of relationships, romantic relationships. Is we've known this person all our lives, and if please tell me if you can relate to this. We've known this person all their lives. And we expect them to fit a role, and suddenly they've grown. And you're like, who are you? Or they say, who am I? Because when we do this work, Mel, we seem to grow and we don't fit their box of expectations anymore.
Mhm.
And we become a foreigner. It's like, who are you? You've changed, you know. Can you relate to what I'm saying here?
I can very much relate. And speaking of growing, my adult children are a prime example of my, and you talk about me fitting them into the box that I have. I am still struggling with the fact that they are all out on their own now. My eldest daughter's 25. My son's 21. And they are actually out there building their own lives, don't need mum anymore. And I haven't seen them for most of this year. So it's interesting. I'm trying to come to grips with who they're becoming, not as the children that I raised. And so it's about me now spending time listening to them and being present with them to understand who they are, where they're at, what's going on for them, and looking at them as adults in their own right, as individuals, and as opposed to just my children. They have their own full identities. They always have, but now it's about, you know, really getting to know who they are and what their dreams are, what their hopes are, what their problems are, and being open to that.
Yeah, for sure. I love what you're sharing there. I'm just going to check in with the comments here. I'm just looking here, and please add in the comments. I'm watching the comments. Terry, Zena says, she says, presence, the most valuable gift. Thank you, Zena. Love that share. And it is really a valuable gift that we can give somebody, especially when they're not fitting our paradigm anymore, and it feels like they're not the same people. And I suppose in that sense, we have to give a little bit of compassion from our point of view, how much we've changed and grown too. As a coach, you have to do a lot of self-work. And in that self-work, there has to be exponential growth. And in that exponential growth, we want, a lot of the times we want our partners to grow with us. And it's a tough thing to do, and to expect them to want to. And I don't know, we expect them to change, and it's like they don't know sometimes how to do that, and it can be quite challenging. So in the presence of things, although we have our boundaries and saying, and we have our needs and our emotional needs, and to have those still in place, as well as be compassionate and present to them, and having that compassion of, hey, yeah, I've changed, and I've changed for the better, and listen to how they feel about that, and have those conversations like, this is some new benchmarks on store, and have those conversations. It must be so tough. I've done most of my growth single, so I'm excited to see what my relationship looks like. It will be quite fun.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, Craig, about it's not only us relating to other people's growth, it's about them relating to the growth and how we've changed over time. I know I have had enormous growth this year myself, and it's something that's posed questions for my partner as to how he fits into that. It's brought up a little uncertainty for him, and I've reassured him that that's not something that I'm looking at changing. I am just growing and being more able to relate better to him, and learning how to be more present to him.
I love that.
And then starting those conversations to explore our relationship more, to look at deepening it, and seeing where we go to from here as I grow, and how he feels about that.
Yeah. And those are some tough conversations. I'm just going to check in with the comments again, Mel. So hopefully I can check in with the comments. Zena says, this resonates so much, Craig. Anyone closely involved in our lives. Yeah, and it really is anyone closely involved in our lives. That's a really great point, Zena, because as I've grown, even in my employment, and I tell you what, there's been a few ups and downs in my life while I've changed and grown and confronted some massive issues with myself and with my behaviors, my beliefs. Like, beliefs are huge. And being another side of this is being present with myself, really, really owning my shit and uncovering it too. Because you dig, and a lot of it's unconscious. And as we become present to our shit, it can get really hard to look at sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, this is hard. And I remember a certain time where I just didn't want to get out of bed, Melissa. I wanted to stay in bed because of all the challenges, and I didn't feel like life. It was that hard because something happens, and I must say that regret or guilt should be a flash. Otherwise, it's toxic. I want to put that disclaimer in there. It's really important. However, when it came up for me, sometimes we're just human and a wallow of it. And as we grow and learn to become present with ourselves and realize that we aren't the mistake, we made a mistake, that guilt can snap out and we become more and more present, realizing that we aren't a mistake, we made mistakes, and really feel into that. It can be challenging to confront things. I don't know about you in your life. I've definitely been smashed a few times by TCI and our great mentors, Remy Pearson and Matt Lavaz and Joe Pane, and a lot of the other great speakers that are available, like Rashid and Claire White. Look, Kim Harris, she's another great example of a great mentor and coach that wake people up. So yeah, what do you reckon about that?
Yeah, and I do. And what just came up for me while I was listening to you about being present to ourselves. And I think that presence that we have with ourselves then allows us to bring compassion.
Yeah, the compassion.
Because
when we are truly,
One of the things that I found was that compassion was something I found easy to have for others. But man, was I hard on myself. I found that incredibly difficult because that guilt, I had guilt over things that I'd had no control over before, because I wasn't aware of what I knew. Some of the things that were happening, I wasn't happy with the way they'd gone in different relationships, and that between my children, my ex-husband, for instance, my mother. But I didn't know exactly where it was going wrong or how to fix it. And so I was carrying a lot of guilt over that.
Yeah.
And it took me some time to be present enough with myself and then develop that compassion to actually realize that I had been doing the best I could at the time. And it was only through doing the work on myself, healing myself, and then realizing where it was. I then had a roadmap forward as to how to change those things. My relationship with my children is improving. It's never been bad, but I'm now able to be more present for them in the way they need me to be, not in the way I thought I needed to be, because it was about how I thought instead of being curious about what they actually needed from me. I didn't even know to do that. I was so busy being the mum. Yeah.
Isn't it funny though, when we do that, we're actually not even present with ourselves. We abandon ourselves completely.
Yeah.
I've noticed in the past, and I'll just quickly check the comments again because it's really great to hear what comes up in here. And Zena's just said, Melissa, completely feeling those feels,
Yeah, thanks,
and stretched beyond belief at times. Thank you, Zena. We love that. Yeah. So the next part of that is when we actually have in the past abandoned ourselves for our own guilt, to meet the needs of our kids, which actually abandons their growth in a way. It's a complete circle of abandonment because while we're propping them up, they haven't got the chance to grow. While we're making excuses and picking up their pieces and picking up their shit, they don't have the room to grow. And it's probably, as a parent, one of the hardest things to do. Or abandoning myself and wanting to, as they grow up, wanting to fit into their world and doing everything. For me, that was like, I was doing everything I can to appease my guilt as being such a shit parent. A lot of the times I've realized now, being a shit parent, and it's okay because everybody, when they realize this, have aspects. There's no perfect parent out there. There's no fucking handbook, you know. We don't know exactly how can we meet the needs of our children if we've never known how to meet, or we've never had our needs met, and we don't know how to meet our own needs until we learn how to.
Yeah.
When we realize it, it's like, okay, now I'm going to play the guilty game, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can and abandon myself to make up for all the shit that I've done wrong. And then you're abandoning yourself because you want them to change to be the perfect child so you can feel better as the parent. It's a fucking joke. And the moment that you accept them and saying, hey, you know what, you're not going to change. I am present with you as you presently are. Wow.
That's so important.
That is a bang moment. It's a bang moment.
Then they know they're accepted for who they are, no matter how that shows up. And that's what we all need. We all need to know that we matter and that we're worthy as we are.
Yeah.
We don't have to fit any ideals, any molds, any societal expectations.
Yeah. And
as we are is perfect.
Yeah, I love that. And to add to that just a little bit more is we don't need to abandon our opinion or our feelings about it. So, and it's not opinion, like I say, I used to just lecture Ellie. I'd be like, you know, you're doing it wrong, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. Now it's like, hey, you know, when you do that, I feel this anxiety for you. If you want, like, open arms, not come here. If you need me, I'm here for you. I'm feeling a little bit anxious about it, but your choices are ultimately yours. And if you want to have a conversation about it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. Just know that I love you. And that's it. Now, if they extend the conversation, you can say the warnings and also give a disclaimer as, if you do this, I can't pick up your pieces, depending age appropriate, you know, because otherwise you abandon their ability to grow. So take responsibility. That's a tough one. Yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to quickly check the comments.
Yeah, I was just looking.
Oh, yeah.
We're living in our heart space, which is free from judgment of ourselves and of others. It's pure love and connectedness. I love that, Zenia.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's what it's all about, is about coming from our heart.
Yeah.
Not from our head.
Yeah.
And I think when we get back to the idea of presence versus presence, so many times we try to show our love and appreciation through material things.
Yeah.
And it's that connection, that heart connection, that is often the piece that's missing, that we're not, even though we know somebody loves us, we can still feel disconnected from them when we don't feel their actual, their presence of their heart. And knowing that they're there, not just trying to, oh, well, a point in is my mum. My mum grew up not being able to connect to it. She'd shut down the emotional side of it for various reasons. And she didn't realise that that was what had happened. And so her way of expressing her love was through providing whatever my brother and I needed. The thing I grew up wanting was her, not the things. And it's only been through what I've been learning this year, through my coaching journey, to actually be present with mum and ask her questions and be curious around what has been, what it's been like for her growing up, and to start to know the question sort of things to, let's go. And she's now starting to understand herself. At 84 years old, she's now starting to discover why she is the way she is, which is something she's always wondered about.
That's an incredible point you make, Mel. I love what you're saying in the ways of the heart space, and a lot of times how, like, when you say that your mum was not there, a lot of the times she was doing the best she could with the tools she had.
She loved us with her whole heart.
Yeah, and just being present to that, talking about presence. I want to throw a little disclaimer in there, though, about people who have a love map, and their love language is gifts of gifts. Yeah. And I don't know how that works as it goes to presence versus presence, and how we can, their presence may be in presence.
Yeah, it's interesting. You bring up the 5 love languages.
Yeah,
that's a whole other sort of thing I would love to delve into sometimes, because I did study the 5 love languages a number of years ago. And yeah, I'm just not sure now where those different languages come from, whether they're nature or nurture.
Well, it's not really a problem whether they are or not in what I've seen, because everything's obviously an emotional bid. All of those love maps and love languages are emotional bid, and those emotional bids are if you look at there's a core need, and when we look beyond the emotional bid, no matter what it is, they're looking for validation or having their needs met. So if somebody gives you a present and their love language is gifts, then they're obviously wanting love. They're needing you. They're needing your presence, and whatever that means at that time, and that acknowledgement that I'm important. And isn't all relationships revolving around I'm important, I matter, I'm loved, no matter what?
Connection and feeling worthy.
It's just another, and when you meet that love, that act of service, or that whatever it is, or that gift, and validate it, whether you like the gift or not.
Absolutely.
When a child gives you a half chewed up lolly, and
they're the most precious gifts of all.
I really like that. Damn, Play-Doh. Let's eat Play-Doh. To have that child know that you love them and that you appreciate their giving, and that's just on a totally different scale. But when your partner needs, like, a lot of women these days, for instance, they desire touch, but not sex. They want a kiss and a cuddle without the whole, I want to get jiggy with it. And that emotional need is, am I just a sex object? Am I just a convenience for you? And I've talked to many women about this and question it because I'm so curious about it. And so many women have told me, and please elaborate on this if you can, that so many women have told me in so many relationships, they just feel like an object sometimes, when all they want is a hug and a kiss and said that they're loved and told they're loved. And to meet that need, please.
Thanks, Craig. That's another area that I had delved into some time back too, and it resonated with me when I heard this, that with men, and this is only generalizations, of course.
Yeah,
we can only ever talk in generalizations. But with men tend to, sex tends to be an expression of connection for them.
Yes.
Whereas women in general tend to be looking more for the affection side of it rather than the actual act. And that's where the disconnect often happens between men and women. Because a man's looking to, get intimate. From a woman's perspective, from a man's perspective, that's his emotional bid for connection and to show, his love for somebody. Whereas, and that's in a relationship space, whereas a woman is looking for connection through the touch, through the affection, and the actual act is irrelevant in a lot of cases. It's not something that's, they're looking for every single time, and it takes, wow, that's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down.
Oh, look, this is the conscious conversations we're talking about here.
Because it's women need that affection and feeling that connection first to build the sexual tension.
Yeah.
Whereas it's sort of almost the reverse for men, which is really interesting. That's where we can go back to,
Let's just visit what you just said then. I'd like to just touch on men that need that first. I think that because of society today, and I'm going to make a statement here, and I will probably get shut down, and I don't care because I see this is my personal opinion, that men today have, because of society and its strain on men, have become less emotionally present.
Good point.
So they don't know, and if you have a look on TV, media, women are now regarded as objects. And at that point, they're not really. It's just a media stream of barrage training brains to create this disconnection between relationships. And the statistics prove that there is a problem. And I'm just flailing around in the dark saying maybe this is one of the issues. Now, why I'm saying that is that when men can become present and aware in a relationship, and as Remy says, our mentor Remy, talking about carrying the weight, the emotional log, lifting your part of that emotional weight, carrying your part of the emotional dynamics of the relationship, for want of a better word, that we become present to the needs of our partner. So a man giving cuddles and kisses throughout the day, explaining it, like being present and listening instead of trying to fix. And how many times do we hear that? I remember in a conversation I had with my a recent ex-partner, when I mean recent, I think it was my last relationship, but it was a while back. I sat on the table and we would have these talks till 3 a.m, and she says, I don't feel heard. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? We've been talking all night. And I didn't realize, because I was just putting my point across. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. And I was in my headspace of who I wanted them to be, not who they were, who she was, but who I wanted her to be. So how could I be present to see that she wanted affection when I don't even see the person that she is? And I'm so sorry that how many women live in this today. And one of my greatest goals is why I love emotional intimacy and why I do so much work around it, is because I would love to connect men back to their emotions so they can connect to their partners, so they can connect with others. That is my mission. And if anything comes up for anybody listening tonight or redoing this, please, and anybody, any woman feeling this issue, and you feel comfortable with either of us, just put a message down or send us a message. We've got a message in the Facebook, in our Facebook page, Conscious Conversations with Craig and Mel. Just push the message button, send us a message, and we will get back to you and we can book you in for a free session. And because this is so important to us, we want to be able to reconnect relationships. For me, especially, and Mel, I've had conversations with Melissa privately talking about how this is so important to us, how we want to connect people back with each other. So if this is a need for you, please just message us, because we're here to help. We're here to give love. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So presence, I find it now, I know that just keep coming at me. You know, when you get an emotional partner, it may have nothing to do with you, but the fact that she's hurt and she's having an overwhelm, sometimes guys feel blame. So they're in the past, they're taking it all on. They're feeling this fear coming up, you know, they're not present anymore. They're just going to go into defense mode. They're gone. It's like, fuck, I'm going, man. I'm out. Yeah. And what happens is we get this overriding sense to fuck off, and we tell, instead of running away, we can go and put our hands up and say, fuck off. And that's what more when a woman is needing an emotional, needing to be heard and having an emotional need met, that we do the complete opposite and say, fuck off, go away.
Or try to fix it.
Or try and fix it. Or try and fix it. Don't feel like that. You shouldn't be feeling like that.
Just try, can I just jump in there for a second?
Yeah, please.
Because this is another area I have experience with.
Who's loving this, by the way? Just give it a shout out in the chat. Who's digging this shit?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is such valuable conversation. Because that was when my ex-husband, for instance, if I got emotional, if he couldn't fix it, he got very uncomfortable and didn't know what to do with it. And I had tried to tell him, all I need is to know that you're there for me, that you've got my back. Well, you don't have to do anything. I'm strong enough to deal with this. I just would like to know that there's somebody there for me that goes, I'm here for you. Whatever you need, put your arm around me, that's all I need. But he was straight into fix it mode. Or, man, I have no idea how to deal with this shit. He was just, whew, I got nothing.
Yeah, actually, I don't think any guy does know how to deal with it. So they go to logic brain and they're suddenly no longer present, because they go into the future and go into imagination games. It's like, if I was in this position, I know exactly what I'd do. I'd do this, this, and this. Hey, you know what you should do? Yeah, you're looking at this all wrong, Melissa. That's not it. Oh no. The fact is even when we've been in years of this relationship, and you've had years of this relationship, it's not too late. Unless you're both given up, it's not too late. And it's a matter of hearing the conversation.
And that's
How many
the beauty
times
of this.
do you need to have that conversation again and again?
And it takes practice.
And being present and feeling blamed, and just for a guy that's not been available, emotionally available, it's hard. And if you really love her, you'll carry on. You know, you'll do it. And it's about showing up. How many times do you have to show up? Every fucking time. Unless you don't want to. And then there's no point. But as Khalil Gibran said, he said, if you only want the happiness in life, be prepared to live a half life and laugh only half your laughter and cry only half your tears. And that's a fucking too big a price to pay for me personally. So I'll have the conversation, and I'm willing personally to undo. There's a favorite song of mine, Innocent Man. I'm willing to take the shit from other relationships to meet that need sometimes, because a lot of it's past, you know, and I'm not talking about being an emotional punching bag. I'm just talking about being present to needs, and there's boundaries in there. It's like, hey, what you're saying right now is you. And it's like, I have criteria like micro truth. If you know what I mean by micro truth, it's actually just presently saying, I feel this now.
Yeah.
When you said that, I'm feeling this coming up, and I don't know whether it's from here or there. It reminds me of this, and it's not like you're doing this, you're doing that. It's suddenly, because that's all past, you know. So we're not being present again.
It's about just explaining what's going on for us without blaming them for it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the key.
Yeah. And as soon as the blame game starts, you're doing this and you're doing that, it's like
the walls come up.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, fuck. So it's about learning to have the conversations too.
Yeah. And being willing to not get it right.
Yeah. And be willing to fuck it up.
But knowing that you're each in there having a go, and that this matters enough to be working on it. And having that compassion for each other during that.
Yeah. Here's a really cool thing I learned. The whole disappearing, like I'm fucking out. When you're flooding, you're not present, right? The amygdala takes over and rushes cortisol, it rushes adrenaline, and all these sorts of neurochemicals going on in your body, and it floods you, and you're no longer present. No matter how much you want to be, you no longer have cognitive thought. And the best thing to do is saying, right, I need to take a break from this. I need a moment. Let's reconvene this conversation at this time. Not, I can't have this conversation anymore. Because it shows that I'm willing to thrash it out with you, but right now, my head's a fucking mess. I can't deal with this right now.
Yeah. And they say, like, that's giving yourself the space before you respond. So that you can choose what the best response is going to be in that, rather than responding almost instinctively or what our patterns have been, what we're been used to doing. Our default setting that we've grown up with. Yeah. We've taken on from, you know, experiences we've had before that have developed that.
Sure. I think that's exactly right. The experiences we've had before set us up. I know in my life that I've been unable to gain trust. So in that, I feel like I am going to be abandoned. This is just me. So in the past, what I do is abandon first. What's the best form of defense? It's attack. So I'll just exit. I'm leaving. I'm packing my shit. I'm out of here. I've had enough. I remember the pattern right back in, like, even in the last relationship, I moved out 4 times. I was out because I was scared, and I felt the biggest feeling I felt was, and it's really cool to see this presence. I felt like I was just never enough. Now catch that. Presence, right? She wanted to be heard, and when she was doing to be heard and felt validated, loved, appreciated, felt enough, felt like she was lovable, felt like her needs were met, and I wasn't meeting them as a guy, I would feel attacked by her, lose my shit and say, fuck, I've had enough of you. You would blame me for everything. Blame. That's all I hear is blame.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, I wasn't meeting an emotional needs. And it's like, I heard this once before, and here's a really annoying statement. Now I understand it. I saw it. All she needs is a good, hard. Yeah, I heard that one before.
That came from a man.
And do you know what? I have to say, for a finite amount of time, it looked like it worked. But it wasn't. It was a Band-Aid over a gaping wound.
Yeah.
It was more like, for me, it was like, have a connection. I'm seeking connection. I want to feel connection with you. I want to be present with you, is what she was saying.
And so at the time, if I'm reading this right, Craig, what was happening was you didn't know how to fulfill her need, and she also didn't know how to ask for it in a way that you understood it.
No. Actually, funny enough, she was actually really good.
Yeah, okay.
At talking, I just couldn't hear her. If you
Because-
remember when I first started at TCI, I don't know whether you were in it. The first thing I ever heard from Matt Lavaz was this. I said, this woman's a fucking control freak. Just throw her under the bus. She's a control freak. He said, sounds like you're projecting. What? Excuse me? You got to be joking, right? And I thought to myself, I don't even know what that means. What did he just say? Projecting. What does that mean? I understand what projecting means, but I didn't understand how I was projecting. The fact was that if, in this book, Conscious Loving by Gay Hendricks, really cool book. I don't know whether you, I always fruit this book. Gay Hendricks talks about this amazing fact. I love it so much. Nearly losing my thread here. Come back to me. Yeah, so projecting, right?
So we're talking about.
Oh shit! It's actually gone. We should move. Gay Hendricks was Conscious Loving, fantastic book. Never mind, it's gone.
One of the things that was coming up for me while I give you time for it to come back was that when we have a belief about something, it will colour how we perceive everything else that happens around us. Yeah. I remember now 100%. So there's 200% in a co-created relationship. There's your 100% and their 100%. And you take 100% responsibility for you, and they take 100% responsibility for them. And it's not, if you can't take 200% responsibility, and you can't take 50% responsibility, it's half my fault, half it. No, you're there, right? I was in that relationship, whether she had need to feel like she was in control or not, was regardless to the fact that I attracted her and I was attracted into that relationship in the first place. So what was my need? What was my codependent need that I wasn't being present to? And that's when the projection really came on, because I wasn't responsible for my part in this relationship. That's big. Yeah, it is. It's huge. It reminds me of when you talk about, the 100% and the 100%. There's how many of us grew up believing that we were looking for our other half to complete us?
Far out, well said.
And we're looking for somebody to fulfill that part of us that we felt was missing. And yet all of that is within us. And it's when we become whole in ourselves that then we can have a truly functional relationship with another person who is whole. And there's something that I think it was Remy Pearson that said this, can correct me if I'm wrong, was it's like to me, I've got a picture in my mind of a street. That's the relationship going down the street. You've got your side of the road and their side of the road. And the street is your relationship going forward. You've got to look after your side of the road. They have to look after their side of the road, be responsible for each of our own stuff, how we respond to things, not allowing them for us to say, you made me feel this, what you did has upset me, what you did made me angry, what you did hurt me. That was a huge, huge, huge learning for me. When I came to, really bring it home that I'm responsible for how I respond to something outside of me. And we touched on boundaries there earlier, and that's probably a great topic for another chat at some point, is around boundaries. But that's about saying, okay, I've got a boundary here. If that's something that's happening and I don't like that, I can express that boundary and say, look, that's not okay with me. But it's not saying you made me feel that. And that's where I'm taking care of my side of the street. I'm dealing with my emotions and how I'm feeling. That takes some work to get to a point where we can actually realize that what they're doing isn't saying something about us. It's saying more about them and what they're going through.
How's everybody in the chats with this? I haven't really, I got that involved that I haven't really looked and seeing if anybody's
We've got Jeff there. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff, how you going?
Good to see you. Xenia, totally needing to hear this discussion this evening. Wonderful.
Oh, that's so good.
So
I'm
happy.
glad we could serve, Zena. And it's great to see you too, Jeff. Love this. I wanted to touch back on something you said about the boundaries. And I know it's a topic, but just to quickly brush past it. And when you said taking care of your side of the road, and when people cross over onto our side of the road, and it's like, hey, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit crossed right now. And it's how they show up. And how do we, this is a tough one to have in a relationship, but it needs to be said, that's a you problem. That's a you problem. And how the person shows up, I love this from Remy. Toxic, if somebody responds to you for you to set your boundaries or for you to express your needs or say what you need to say from a loving ecological place, good for me, good for you, good for the world, love, compassion in that space, and they respond toxically, to make it double toxic, you respond with toxic. It goes to blame, 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 blame.
Yeah.
And the fight ensues.
Yeah, you get
there is no, and it's
there's
like
no winner.
And so you express a need or you express a boundary and you say, hey, right now I'm feeling this and I'm feeling like you're crossing lines or I'm not feeling heard. And it's like, well, I've been listening to you all night, and it says, well, I don't feel heard. And if they say you are you, it's like, that's a you problem. And how they show up, it's like, remember this one? Going to the empty well and secure attachment. And how long are you going to keep going towards that empty well when you're not having your needs met? Are you being present to yourself, or are you abandoning yourself? Yeah. And it's that big thing there is a whole nother conversation of boundaries and boundaries on ourselves and our emotional needs, and a self-abandonment back again, and not being present to our needs, and compromising our well-being, creating codependent relationships, avoidant, what is it? Avoidant, anxious avoidant relationships. And really going into, like, do you remember the 3 levels on that? So this is where we're no longer present. So there's blame. Then there's blame, withdrawal. Then there's withdrawal.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get to that point of withdrawal, that's when shit's wrong. And the person that hasn't been showing up, withdrawing, and that person stops showing up, may feel really good. But the person that has been, I need my needs met, starts withdrawing, your relationship's pretty much over at that point, because they've given up. They're no longer present.
Yeah, I it's so true. And I've seen that play out in my own relationship, in other relationships. I'm also mindful that depending on who's tuning into this conversation, that some of that language might be a little sort of foreign to them, too. Cool. As in, and we are diving quite deep here in this conversation. So if there are any areas of this for anyone who might be watching, please feel free to reach out to either Craig or myself. We can go into it if it's triggering anything for you, or you're relating to it. We're here to talk and to connect with you. And as Craig said, we're quite happy to offer a free session to discuss where things are at for you, and maybe explain a little bit more.
And the beauty about it is sometimes you only need one conversation. And if it comes up that you need more, that's okay too. We can look at things like that. But at that point in time, maybe you just need someone to hear you, and just sound things out.
That's so powerful.
And you know, this is about a world of giving love. Like, you know me well enough now that my favorite quote is, to know love, to receive love is an incorrect statement. This is Remy Pearson. To know love, to receive love is an incorrect statement. To know love really is to give love. And to, as you know, to help people reconnect with themselves and connections. This is what we're missing. We're becoming a digital world. We're no longer present. Hang on. I love my phone. Oh, what? Yeah, I'm listening.
It's so true.
So to teach people, like, there's a lot of things that can go in this, and one of our coaching methods is the CAM model. And not to go into it deeply, our environment, which is the first part, it says ESIP. I'm only going to hit on the first one, which is our environment, is our beliefs, the way we look at the world, our perceptions towards the world, how we think, our behaviors, our values, and all of these things. And when we have a value over technology, over a relationship, we need to develop a new strategy, because everything's a strategy, or to change these things and to get these under control, because we're not in control anymore and we're losing out on our relationships. It's time we turn these fuckers off and learn to connect, because we're organic, we're not digital, believe it or not. And I notice people today, this is coming back to presence again, are becoming automatons. They just go to work, they do the same thing day in, day out. They watch TV, they watch their Home and Away. They learn emotional connection through Home and Away. That scares me. That scares me, because that is called codependence and dysfunctional behavior. It's yelling, screaming. It's actually a abusive relationship. There's that honeymoon phase. They go through the fight and then they make up. But they're just playing a pattern. They're playing a tribal pattern over and over again. And the reason why it makes so much sense to people, why people can engage, is because I am, you are, all lived in tribal patterns, and to unmesh, meaning to break free from the roles we've played, like in Home and Away, like the stories in our lives, the dramas, we connect so well with it because we understand it, we can feel it. I hope this is making sense for you guys. This is where we need to drop the technology and realize connection really is turning the TV off, turning the phones off, and becoming one special fucking word. One word that starts with C. Do you know what it is?
Connected.
Curious.
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 Yeah.
Curious. Who are you? Who is this person in my lounge? We share a house, but do we really know each other?
Yeah. And that's where you talk about love maps. For anyone who's not familiar with love maps, a love map is actually sitting down and taking note of what's important to your partner, what lights them up, what upsets them, what actual colours they like, what food do they like, what do they like to do in their quiet time, what was their childhood like, things that are important to them about their childhood, about their anything at work, whatever. Actually know what's going on for them and know what matters to them, truly matters to them. The small, minute details that show that you actually do know them. It's not, yeah, I know you like, fish on a Friday or whatever it is. It's got to be, it's the little things. When you know the little things and you let them know that you know those things, that's when you can really show up as being present to them, because it will come out in your everyday interactions with each other. You'll know how much milk they like in their tea or coffee.
Yeah.
You'll know whether they like it in first or whether they like it in last. Just those little things are the things that really show that you know each other.
What about, I'm just going to throw something in here that might just be a little bit more exciting. Why not, instead of like really be curious and go to the point of ultimate curiosity, this is like next level curiosity, right? What you do is you look for the signs of when they feel, like you can see the body language. When you get to know somebody, what they're looking like, or if they're excited on the telephone, before they even get off the telephone from an excited conversation. What was it? Be really interested in their life.
Absolutely.
Before it happens. It's even
looking for
better.
clues.
Yeah, looking for the clues. It's even better than just being responsive. You're proactive. And when you're proactive,
I love that.
the connection.
Yeah.
When you really, it shows how much you fucking care, guys.
And how much they matter to you. Now, makes them feel like they really do matter.
And when your partner's needs are met, your needs will get met.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's connection. That's what happens. You know?
And that's when the passion gets sparked in a relationship.
Oh, shit gets wild.
Yeah.
Sky rockets at night, afternoon delight.
I'm glad you're the singer in this duo.
I love it. And it's not just about that. Like, there is, guys, for me, I know there's a sense of magic that when a woman looks at you a certain way with those eyes of devoted love, because you really do meet their needs and you do show up for them and you do care and love them, there's not a better feeling in the world.
Yeah.
There is no need for her to be looking at other men, and there's no need for you to be looking at other women, because all your needs are taken care of because you're present. Because you're present.
Yeah. You're present to each other.
There's nothing better. There's nothing
It's
better.
It's the greatest gift of all.
Just absolute magic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'd like to add, there is an amazing connection you can have with your children as well by being present and looking for the clues and being proactive. At first, they're like, stop looking at my shit, man.
Just listening
It's
to
not
them,
about them. It's not
shutting
being,
up and listening to them.
yeah. It's like, oh, okay. You want your privacy? That's fine. Or just looking at their needs. And I tell you what, teenagers can be the worst, just saying. Try and find them. It's even better because if you can figure out what a teenager's needs are and you've been absent for a long time and start discovering this as they're a teenager and you start showing up, it's never too late.
Yeah.
It's never too late. Ever. Because your relationship can change. It's never too late because it's not. Here's a perfect example. The masks came off on the 15th, right? And I cruised into the hardware store and I said, good to have your masks off. And they said, nearly forgot we even had them yesterday. And I said, that's the problem. I was like, that's why we're in the shit. And I don't want to get political. It's just that we forget. Sometimes forgetting and forgiving is so easy. And it's a good thing, especially with our family members. And we can connect because once those needs are reconnected and met, there's something called a trust. And as you build trust and you deposit into the trust bank. So there's this little bank, right? There's this little money box. And every coin that you put in that trust bank by meeting your partner's needs, when shit gets hard, because you've been present with them for so long, when shit gets really hard, that trust bank, you can take withdrawals and you get through the hard times a lot better and they become a lot easier because you know that you're there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And there is trust to know that, are you there for me? Can I trust you? Do you love me? Am I important? And you just know that look in the eye, that devoted look in the eye that a woman gives you, or a guy, you just feel supported, heard, loved, and appreciated. That it's okay, and you can lean in and relax. You can. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this.
Can I just say,
yeah,
with the trust bank, what a lot of us have to realise is that often it's in overdraft to start with. So before you can start withdrawing anything, there needs to be a lot of deposits made to actually build up enough to be able to start withdrawing.
Absolutely.
And that's just a fact that, you can't withdraw something that's not actually enough there to withdraw from. But I'm mindful of time here, Craig.
Yeah,
too.
it is. It's actually over time. I just get so excited.
I think there's a number of topics that we've touched on that are great topics to really expand on.
Absolutely. And look, what we're going to be doing, so you guys know, and there is a lot coming. This is going to get exciting, this space. So every Monday at 7:30 Melbourne, Sydney time. I don't even know if you know, Mel. We haven't really talked about. We have talked about what we were planning to do in this. We've got guests coming, special guests that you may have never ever seen before. There are special guests that are from our TCI coaches that are and mentors that are going to be coming on and sharing topics with us.
ICI now, we're international.
Sorry, ICI. So International Coaching Institute, if people don't know what that is. We are going to be going crazy with this stuff. So tell your friends.
Yeah, bring
that
everyone.
This space is going to go off.
These are conversations that are just so exciting to delve into.
And if you've liked what you've heard tonight and you want to keep keep going, and you feel like that there's, if you like this, you feel like there's some friends that could really benefit from these conversations, this Facebook Live is available for them. Just share it with them. Share them a link to our page. Get them to like it. It's always there. So, and once you do that, if they need help, you know, just keep showing up. We're going to keep showing up every Monday at 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I get hit by a bus, which I touch wood. Oh man, I've got steel.
They don't
bus.
even put that out there.
You know, wood, paper book. That'll do. Wood. So yeah, if you like the space, we're going to be here every 7:30, every Monday 7:30. I'd love to see you turn up and bring your friends. Tell your friends, bring them down.
Yeah, we're on a mission. We're on a mission to spread the love and help people get back in touch with themselves and with each other, and really form those deep connections.
Absolutely. That's my mission anyway. Connect, and connect. Give love, give love. I love it. Oh, so good.
Good on you, Xenia. Love that. She's sharing the shit out of this.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Zena. I love it. We're going to bid you good night. And I got to say thank you so much for watching tonight.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's been wonderful. Hey, Jenny. Good to see you there.
Jenny. Hey, Jenny. It's so good. Yeah. So it's here. It's an hour's worth of time, but there's some, man, we hit on some stuff tonight.
We did. We covered a lot of ground.
What do you reckon for our first night? Our first clunky night? That's wild.
We clunked along quite well, I thought.
We clunked out.
Definitely clunked out. Awesome.
Oh, so
it's
cool.
been fun. It's been really fun.
It has. Thank you, Melissa. See you Monday, which is actually tomorrow, believe it or not.
It sure is.
And we've got another exciting topic.
We'll post that tomorrow, shall we?
And that's excitement, because you don't know, but we do, don't we, Mel? It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it will be.
Good night, everybody. Lots of
good night, everyone.
Good
Heaps of love from us. All right.
Okay, so we've stopped streaming now. We can talk.
Cool. Stop recording.
Stop recording. Yep.